Welcome to another edition of Economic Forum where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. My name is John Masugu. We discuss issues that have to do with international relations, culture, agriculture, industry, and many aspects of life. Livestock or livestock production plays a very important role in our social, cultural, and economic well-being as Zimbabweans. In fact, it makes a significant contribution to the gross domestic product or GDP. But this can only happen if the livestock is in good health and those who are breeding are also knowledgeable and are skilled in marketing as well as production. It is in that vein that we've invited an economist who specializes in livestock economics and production, and that's Dr. Reneth Mano. Welcome to Economic Forum.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here today.
What you have come here for, Dr. Mano, is to specially stress how we can realize profits from livestock, because there are people who breed livestock, but at the end of the day, they are not impressive to those who would otherwise follow them as role models because they don't see anything that is coming out of that. Others have been successful, but you want to look at the value chain of livestock production.
I think livestock production in general, livestock farming as a business, is a well-entrenched production habit in our culture. In the past, we grow up raising cattle, goats, sheep, etc. in the villages as young boys and girls. So we are familiar with raising cattle. We are familiar also with the value of cattle, because many of us were educated through the sale of livestock that were saved by our parents. As soon as they started working, every African father was told that ultimately you're going to get married, and the first thing you do is to save your money and you buy some beasts. So there was a lot of that instilled in us, that livestock farming was not just a business, but was also a way of storing wealth and passing wealth from one generation to another. However, some of us have gone further, and in Zimbabwe we have about 13 faculties of agriculture training graduates in the scientific ways of raising cattle, so that we as a people can transition between subsistence farming or raising cattle just as a store of wealth to a commercial business enterprise that can unlock value and help develop the nation of Zimbabwe. I think in this regard, I must say that Zimbabweans are doing very well, particularly in the raising and production growth of poultry. We have been self-sufficient in
almost every village or every home, even in the towns.
Yes.
People are keeping chickens.
Indeed. So in addition to the semi-commercial production of chicken that you see running around in the village, where even our Ministry of Agriculture is now providing technical support and assistance to reduce mortality and increase productivity of our village flocks of chicken and road runners, as most people know them. Commercial production of chicken has become one of the major economic mainstays of our families, particularly spearheaded by women in poultry. Poultry farming by small-scale farmers now accounts for 72 to 75% of the broiler meat that we consume in Zimbabwe. So over and above the 5 major brands we see in the supermarket, the brands we don't see that are consumed in Chitungwiza, Mavuku, Mpopoma, Mbizo suburbs are coming from commercial small-scale producers. Small-scale farmers are women and young youths who are involved in poultry production.
Be that as it may, Dr. Mano, you are still worried that the skills or the knowledge is still not enough. It's not at the level that you would want it to be at. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes. So, I'm going to use poultry as a good case study of how a determined group of well-educated Zimbabwean women and youths have transformed poultry farming from a mere subsistence business operation to a fully fledged commercial-oriented business. They've mastered the skill of reducing mortalities from the 18%, 20% we used to see in the communal chicken production to as low as 4%, just as good as the major brands. So out of 100 chicken that they would raise, for example, they will sell 96, which means that they're just losing 4%. Right? So that is something that we want to pass on, that when farmers are dedicated and they've seen the value, the commercial value, they are willing to master and invest in mastering the knowledge needed to make money from livestock production. This is an opportunity as well in any other livestock sector. Cattle production is currently suffering from about 15 to 18% mortality, for example. Goat production in Zimbabwe is suffering from kid mortality of as high as 36%.
Is this a new phenomenon or caused by
yes.
Recent diseases and so forth?
Yes, indeed. In the case of beef cattle production, yes, you have had January disease. Government has been involved in trying to reduce mortality. But at the end of the day, government can only do so much. The farmers who are growing and raising the cattle, you have to become as dedicated in mastering the scientific knowledge of producing cattle, of managing disease, taking care of nutrition, and ensuring feed security for their animals, more than government. Because at the end of the day, an enterprise is managed by those who are going to profit from it. Just like what small-scale commercial women in poultry have done. So there is no reason at all why we should be experiencing 36% kid mortality in goat production in Zimbabwe, when we have extension workers in every village and we have agricultural college in every province that are capable of training every farmer to master the art of reducing mortality.
Are people aware of the existence of all these facilities that we've just mentioned for their benefit?
I think people are aware, fully aware. In fact, a lot of the students we are talking about come from the same villages and they come from the same towns. But unfortunately, the way we've been educating our masses, particularly the formal education, there's been a disconnect between what we learn at our colleges and the problem-solving approach that is needed to address the issues facing our communities.
Dr. Mano, you're talking about a disconnection and what we learn. That's where we are going to take it in the second segment. Join us in the second segment of Economic Forum, where we'll be talking about livestock production and how we can increase the skills of those who are involved, as well as the profits that they realize. We are now in the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing livestock production and how those who are involved can be better skilled so that they realize better profits from the work that they do. And Dr. Mano, our guest here, who is an economist specializing in livestock as well as policy in that area, has just been explaining to us that we also have to improve on our education system as to how we train people and then they become useful in the market. Yes. What was also interesting was that what we're discussing here is not new. Yes. It's something that almost all of us have witnessed in our growing up, either in the village or in the cities. Yes. That is, especially when it comes to rearing chickens. Indeed. Let's take it from the disconnection.
This is a very important topic. That has now occupied the offices of our ministers of higher and tertiary education, ministers of agriculture. So this is a topic that I think government is trying to address. And we're very happy in the livestock industry that there's increased effort to break down the barriers and the barricades that our education system was putting between what we are teaching our children in high school, our young youths in colleges and universities, and the challenges that the communities in rural communities in agriculture are facing. I think the concept of bringing the faculties of agriculture to the communities the concept of linking agricultural colleges to the communities, the concept of becoming relevant as educational institutions in addressing the challenges facing Zimbabwe today is within that context that we need to make sure that what we learn in school, the science of raising livestock, that is taught from O-level, A-level, university, tertiary colleges, and youth and vocational training colleges, is always relevant to the communities that the children and youths and the graduates are coming from.
You mentioned earlier on in the program that as we grow up, our generations, we're getting these skills from our elderly.
Yes.
Are the elderly of today still imparting those skills so that they are not frowned upon by the young generation?
So the basics, the way I look at it, your upbringing as a child, your appreciation, admiration, and attitude towards agriculture is instilled in you by your parents and by your community. Whether your parents are going to their newly resettled farm with you or the young children are staying at home, is the beginning of the lessons or absence of the lesson in calculating respect for the land and respect for farming and trying to educate our children, catching them young so that they grow up appreciating the work that goes in agriculture. It also instills in them a critical awareness of the challenges that the farms are facing so that when they go back to school, right, they have a beginning point. If they are taking agriculture at O-level and they're defining, for example, their O-level project for ZIMSEC, then they know that this project can address a problem that is facing their livestock enterprise on the farm. I think our agricultural future is in very good hands. We have a lot of graduates who are training. In fact, Zimbabwe is training enough and exporting a lot more into Africa. Graduates who are doing wonders in South Africa, in Rwanda, in Kenya. If you look at any international agricultural institution in Africa and beyond, you will see a Zimbabwean there. So we're not worried about the extent to which and the depth of our training. Our major worry in the livestock sector is the extent to which we are transferring the knowledge that we're acquiring in our scientific fields of agriculture, livestock production, livestock marketing, livestock value chain development, in order to address the pressing problems facing our livestock farming as a business community. Zimbabwe has always been known to have the potential not only to become self-sufficient in poultry, but to become an exporter. Not only to be self-sufficient in pork production, but to become an exporter of pork. Not only to be self-sufficient in beef, but to become a net exporter of beef. What we are seeing at present, while we are happy in the sector that we are self-sufficient in almost all our meat products, except dairy for now, but almost all our meat products and livestock protein, Zimbabwe has been self-sufficient for a while.
So
our
where
main
does
focus,
the appetite for importing come from?
where the problem is that we have countries such as the European Union, for example, the group of 27, that have been subsidizing their agriculture for years, since 1972. And they've now spoiled their farmers to such an extent that they are producing mountains of surplus pork, which for them to, in order to create space for the next harvest, you have to dump all that pork and all those powdered milk to unsuspecting third world countries that are naive enough to issue permits for that. I think this is where the problem is. Dumping means that selling pork at less than the production cost in Europe and less than the production cost in Zimbabwe. And when that pork is on the market, some nefarious business traders will see that as an opportunity. I think to me that's where the patriotism and commitment to national development, the critical understanding of how the global markets work is very essential. I think our education and our postgraduate training of our business community has to raise that sensitivity and awareness that it is not in our social interest to profit at the expense of development opportunities of our country. Yeah, you can make profit by buying a kg of pork abroad for $1, selling it here for $6, but you have already displaced the whole subsector of our almost like 25,000, 30,000 farmers. And the opportunity for us to produce pork, not only for ourselves, to export any foreign currency that we need to become a developed upper middle income country by 2030.
Dr. Mano, I'll stop you there so that we meet again in the third segment. That's Dr. Reneth Mano, who is an economist specializing in livestock as well as policy in that area. And we are discussing the value chain of what Dr. Mano describes as market-driven, so that it can improve profits in our country. So join us in the third and final segment of Economic Forum. We are now in the third and final segment of today's Economic Forum, where we are discussing livestock production as well as how the breeders or the farmers can increase their profits. And our guest today is Dr. Reneth Mano, who is a livestock economist and also an advocate of policy in that area. And in fact, on that note, Dr. Mano, policy issues and regulatory issues, how can they be improved so that this value chain can be also improved for the betterment of our economy?
Mm-hmm. Indeed, I think getting our policies right, getting our regulations right, and strengthening our institutions is the key to transforming the livestock sector from achieving self-sufficiency to increasing export earnings. I think that is a journey that requires strong policy support, smart policy support towards the areas that are currently constraining further development of the livestock sector. I mentioned, because most Zimbabweans, when we mention livestock, they think beef. So I'll start off all by talking about what is needed in the beef sector. I think presently the beef sector has been suffering from untold losses, massive losses every year of cattle due to really avoidable deaths associated with the January disease, associated with the poor vaccination, dosing of cattle, even though the knowledge is well known. I think in every village there is an extension worker, and increasingly now there is also a livestock extension officer and a veterinary extension officer in every ward, right? Every district. So the government has done its part in deploying the relevant skilled personnel to help our livestock sector learn the ABCs of reducing cattle mortalities. The loss of a cattle, any cattle, right, is a loss of about $400 to $600, in income. If it's a female cattle, you are losing the opportunity of rearing 5 cows. Together, 5 times 4, that's about $2,000 that we have lost. So in our villages, cattle play a very important role as a source of draft power for tillage. So you cannot achieve maximum yield when you don't have enough cattle to do your tillage on time, because in crop production, when you don't have manure, you have to buy a lot more fertilizer, parcel fertilizer D. When you don't have cattle for draft power, you will be hiring a tractor at $110, $120 per hectare. So cattle plays an important role. It's very, very important. So we need to make sure that with the few we have are kept well to maximize breeding, as well as to so that they don't die unnecessarily. Now in this area, we advocate, as livestock sector, we are advocating that government and communities and the whole value chain work together towards organizational development of our cattle farmers around their deep tanks, so that they take charge, 100% control of ensuring that their deep tanks are well, dipping chemicals are well supplied, and that the dipping regimen is followed by every member in the community. Because it does not help to have 5 out of 10 people dipping cattle and the other 5 cattle not being dipped, because the ticks will just spread to all the cattle.
But is there now an improvement? Because really that was a serious issue, that livestock was not dipping.
Right, government has done its part. Almost all our dipping now, our deep tanks have been renovated by government and NGO partners. Now, the knowledge is out there. Almost all of our deep tanks have been supplied with the adequate dipping chemicals. And where there are shortfalls, this is where I'm coming in. When there are shortfalls, the owners of the cattle, you have to take care of the cattle, just like the women in poultry. They buy their day-old chick and the feeds and all the veterinary drugs needed for those broilers to go to the market healthy and be sold for a profit. So we need to organize our farmers, capacitate our farmers, and capitalize them in such a way that they will really start taking care of the animal health so that the animals breed optimally and they grow optimally into healthy beasts that will be able to be sold for optimal prices. And for that to happen, my point there is that even our abattoirs, when they are buying the cattle, a cattle that has been vaccinated, dosed in accordance with the DVS regulation, should have a health card which will be able to unlock the highest price on the market versus a beast which is coming to the market, which has no health card attached to it. In other words, it has never been vaccinated, it has never been dosed. It's a risk to the consumer of the beef. That beef, the consumer wants to know that beef has to be sold for a penny, while the one that has been vaccinated with a health card attached to it has to be sold for $1 per kg. And with that differentiation, we'll send the right signal back to the cattle owners to say that now there is money in cattle. If you take care of cattle, you get higher price for your cattle. Currently, there is no incentive for farmers. There is no penalty to farmers who are not following the Department of Veterinary Services regulation. They are all selling their cattle as if that they are good for meat, when some of them have never been vaccinated or dosed against known diseases. The second regulation for government, particularly the Ministry of Agriculture, is to tighten our borders, to make sure that no permits are issued to import, especially pork, unnecessarily, because that habit, we are seeing it and it is destroying the livelihoods and income opportunities of our farmers. That has to stop. In negotiating our free trade agreements, government of Zimbabwe should know that indeed from the 1980 to the present, we have fought very hard to get provisions under WTO to take a longer period as a developing country to develop our value chains. There's no need for our government to short-circuit the length of time we need to develop and improve our productivity so that we become competitive and become ready for export, and that may take 10, 15 or 20 years. Rushing us to free trade, whether it is under AFTA or under the EU Economic Partnership Agreement, is not going to solve our problem. It may actually endanger the strong opportunity that we have to develop our livestock value chains and increase our export earnings. When the time is right, we will open up. But premature opening up to free trade is dangerous and risky and might destroy livelihoods of many and short-circuit our opportunity to become an upper middle income country by 2030.
Dr. Reneth Mano, you could have gone on and on with some of your suggestions with regard to regulation and policy changes, but I'll stop you there. That's Dr. Reneth Mano, an economist who specializes in livestock economics, as well as policies pertaining to that, who would like to thank very much for coming onto Economic Forum. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. And if you have missed some of the episodes of Economic Forum, you can view them on our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of Dr. Reneth Mano and the production crew, this is John Masu.